The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, we are the ones who've encouraged you to like and share them on social media and with all your friends and neighbors. Because independent insurance agent Rudy Howard at this time every Wednesday evening in the 6 o'clock hour presents to you for your enjoyment and education the African American scene. And it's hosted by the one and only Rudy Howard.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am so glad to be with you here on a Wednesday night. Well, boy, oh boy, a lot going on. Let me start with this. I have an announcement from a continued announcement from last week. The Women's Philanthropic Society, in conjunction with the YMCA, is having a brain health across the lifetime seminar Saturday, April 1st, 2023, 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. There's no charge, and it's at the Willoughby Golf Club, 301, that's 3001 Southeast Doubleton Drive, Stuart, Florida. That's 3001 Southeast Doubleton Drive, Stuart, Florida. Okay. I would have to tell you, let me make a confession. This Dominion lawsuit thing, I am obsessed with this information about Dominion versus Fox. And I'm obsessed about it because it is dominating my thinking, because I think of good people who have lived by Fox for information. It is my sincere hope that at least some of you realize your thoughts have been manipulated by lies. Now, I'm going to get into the program, but I just want you to know, most of my Democratic friends, we've talked about this for a long time, and we all knew they were lies. And the frustration for us was that you weren't able to see them. And I'm speaking to you because I know the vast majority of my listeners are of the conservative ilk. And I appreciate you tuning into this program each week to listen to me spout on about some of my progressive ideas. But the biggest thing that I try to do, because I know the majority of you are conservative, is to give you information and ideas that you're not getting. And this whole Dominion thing, actually, to be honest with you, after tonight, I have got to turn it off, because I'll tell you, I have laid in the bed at night thinking about it and how much I feel it has impacted our society as a whole. And no matter what happens in this lawsuit, this is so important. This is probably the most important lawsuit I can think of in my lifetime. So I won't continue to rant on this, but I just got to tell you, I have got to turn the news off after the night and take a break, because I've laid in the bed tossing and turning and thinking about it, because there's people that I like. There's people that used to be friends of mine who are no longer friends because of the lies. And I think that's most regrettable. Anyway, tonight's show was inspired by what somebody asked me last week. What has Biden done for us? I'm going to start for you with a comparison of Trump versus Biden ideology. And I'm going to conclude with all the things that Biden has done in the last 2 years. I encourage you to call 340-1590. That's 340-1590. And I'm going to start with categories. Under healthcare, Trump's position was get rid of the ACA and allow insurance to be sold across state lines. Biden's position on healthcare, he wants to ensure all people under the age of 21. Okay, that's Trump versus Biden. On abortion, Trump's position, outlawing abortion except in the case of rape, incest, and the life of the mother. Biden's position, he supports Roe versus Wade, opposes public funding of abortion, and voted to abandon partial birth abortions. That's Biden. Immigration, Trump, build a wall, triple the number of ICE officers, defund sanctuary cities, and end birthright citizenship. Now, as I've gone through this in the past with you, birthright citizenship was something that was very important to slaves, also very important to the Asians that came here to work on the railroad, that gave rise to birthright citizenship. Biden's position on immigration supports the legalization for undocumented immigrants who must learn English and pay a fine in order to be certified as a citizen. Okay, so there you have it. That's the two positions on immigration. On global warming, Trump's position, he feels the global warming issue was created by the Chinese to make our manufacturing less competitive. Biden's position on global warming wants to create a 5-year, $50 billion project for energy and climate change and opposes offshore drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Again, their phone number is 340-1590. There you have it about global warming. On Iran, Trump rejected Iran's nuclear deal. Here's Biden's position on Iran. Supported the Divestment Act of 2007 with Iran and supports direct engagement with Iran. So, as you know, Trump did reject the Iran nuclear deal. And Biden thinks we should still be engaged in some dialogue with Iran about nuclear weapons. Guns. Trump supports the Second Amendment, opposes new gun laws, and he advocates enforcing the existing gun laws. Biden on guns, a ban on assault weapons, and close gun show loopholes. That's where they both stand on that. Death penalty. Trump supports death penalty and believes there should be mandatory death sentence for killing a police officer. Biden supports the death penalty. There you have it. Those are the basic differences that I came up with. Now, some of you may want to call up and offer additional thoughts about that, and that's okay. Here's one that you need to know about. Administrative criminal charges. 205, listen to this, 215 under Trump. 0 under Obama, and 0 to date under Biden. 0 versus 215. And Trump said his mission was to clean up the swamp. Again, that number is 340-1590. So let's talk about Biden's accomplishments. For my listener last week that challenged me on that, so let's deal with that. He lowered health care and drug costs, extended subsidies for the ACA, which allowed some higher income people to qualify for the ACA. So he expanded the eligibility area for subsidies, which I think is very important. And so some people that in the past didn't qualify for subsidies now do qualify for subsidies. Many of you probably didn't know that. And some of you have probably decided since 2 years ago you applied and you couldn't get it, that was it, or you thought that deductible was outrageous and you passed on the idea. Well, don't pass on the idea, look into it. Whether it be me or somebody else, you may have an opportunity that you are overlooking. He reduced insulin costs to $35 a month. And under the ACA and Medicare plans, vaccines are covered. The vaccines that are covered are free. Other thing that's important is under Medicare, the maximum out of pocket now has been reduced to $2,000. And if you've been involved in Medicare for some time, there's that talk about the donut hole. That donut hole was one time around a little over $4,000, and today that is now down to $2,000. So he's been making life a lot better for senior citizens. And so some of you don't support him, but I'm giving you this information to understand that he has had a profound impact on your life in a positive way. Next category, fighting climate change. He, with the American Rescue Plan, is creating 9 million new jobs. And under this American Rescue Plan, this is the largest historical investment in energy historically. He has advocated the reduction of emissions. And here's another one that I want you to know is kind of important. And if you've been listening to Fox News, you haven't heard any of these accomplishments, because accomplishments are not something that they want you to hear about. Manufacturing will get subsidies for moving to clean energy. Manufacturing of electric vehicles will also get subsidies. If you haven't noticed, I predicted initially that we would be a big majority on electric vehicles by 2030. That's too far out. I think it's going to happen much faster than that. Now, I personally have a hybrid, and I'm very happy with it because I get about 38, 39 miles to the gallon. So my out-of-pocket gas costs have been substantially reduced with my hybrid. And with an electric vehicle, I think there's great value in that. But what I would really say to you is, I hope that in this effort to create more environmentally friendly cars, that hybrids are still part of the equation, because I think they do offer an alternative that is relevant to helping us with climate change, while still giving people the benefit of having gas and electric. But that remains to be seen. Households will receive rebates for moving to clean energy. So there you have it. That's what he's done in the fight for climate change. Now, investment in mental health. I don't know, well, some of you are not old enough to remember, but throughout this country, there were major mental health facilities that were closed. There was a huge one in Long Island that was very near where I used to live in West Babylon. There was another very big one in Philadelphia that is no longer exists. And there was a major mental health facility in Raleigh, North Carolina, Dorothea Dix, which no longer exists. I think we have to rethink that. And I think it was done as a budgetary item. But in doing so, I think we created a societal problem. This is Rudy Howard talking now. I think it created a societal problem. And those of you that are about my age will remember when those facilities existed. And I would dare say some of those facilities housed some of the homeless who now live in tents on streets. Those people were in mental health facilities. And I think our state of mental health is a issue within our country right now. Uh, for under the investment in mental health, he implemented the Safer Communities Act, where he invested $10 billion for mental health. And we got Frank on line one. Yes, sir.
Oh, hi. I hear your advertisements on the radio for health insurance and stuff like that.
Yes, sir.
I hope you yourself are in good health.
Okay.
I hope you're in good health. Because
I,
you shouldn't be staying up late at night tossing and turning about all of these things that are happening. You shouldn't. You should just let go of it. Enjoy yourself.
yeah.
And also, we used to be energy independent, and we should be. We should have fracking. We have plenty of fuel in this country and oil. And the other thing that annoys me is that we're sending billions of dollars to a foreign country that has nothing to do with our own national security. And I'm talking about Ukraine. It's a country that's riddled with corruption. And the man who's the so-called president, I wouldn't trust him. It strikes me as they're going to start asking for American troops, and it sounds like Vietnam all over again. So I'm opposed to that. I'm for energy exploration in this country and stronger schools where you don't have these, what do you call them? Yeah, okay. Where you don't have these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, and that's it. And I hope DeSantis projects a plan that has nothing to do with Trump. But I do wish you'd take care of yourself and be in good health. Good night.
Okay. All right. I guess that was a hit and run, but that's okay. I am not opposed to oil exploration in order to help to make us oil independent. What I want everybody to think about, and I had to think about myself, do you think the supply of oil in the ground in America is infinite? So do you think that there's 40 more years of oil, 50 more years of oil, 60 more years of oil? So if you don't think the oil that is extracted from the ground is infinite, then it makes so much sense to limit the use of the amount of oil and to provide a clean energy solution that ultimately will benefit us all. Because those of you that are my age, the issue of the oil in the ground, such as what Frank is really concerned about, will not be a problem and most likely in our lifetime. So what it may be a problem for is our kids and potentially our grandkids. And I think if you sit and carefully think about it, as I have, then there is no rational reason for why you would not want to pursue a clean energy policy. And to be honest with you, if you go back and look, Jimmy Carter, God bless his soul, who is now in hospice, offered up a clean energy policy in the 80s. And it was kind of laughed at and scoffed at by conservatives. He even had put, I talked about this before, he had put solar panels on the White House. And when Reagan came in, he took them down. But think about that. He had some foresight way beyond what anybody was thinking at that time, which speaks to the brilliance of the man. So we were talking about Biden's investment in mental health. He's also expanding certified behavioral health clinics. And he wants to increase the number of mental health counselors in schools. I can really get behind and support those goals, and I will bet money 9 out of 10 of you didn't even know that he had done that. So again, because if we can once again have people who are having mental health issues in the proper facilities, that makes it good for all of us. That makes it good for all of us. One of the other things here that he has done, which has some controversy, is canceling up to $20,000 in federal student loans. Again, this number is 340-1590, 340-1590. Now, he did that with an executive order. In order to qualify, you have to have income of less than $75,000 a year. Now, we all know there's a case pending in the courts that are fighting against implementing this plan. And there has been 6 state attorney generals in southern states that oppose it. Now, I can understand why you may have some trepidations because you had to pay your loan. I had to pay my student loan. In fact, I had to pay it twice because back then when I first paid it, they said they had no record of it. And I was trying to buy a house, and in order to buy the house, I had to satisfy that loan, so I had to pay it again. I don't have any hardship about that. And the fact that I had to pay mine doesn't make me feel any less inclined to allow for some student loan forgiveness. Because I think we have to allow our future to be able to get a leg up in trying to participate in the economic opportunities that are available to them in this society. And by unburdening them with some of that debt, it will allow them to possibly invest in a small business, buy a house, purchase a car, which all will have an impact on our economic situation here in the country. Even if they decide that they might want to travel by getting that freedom of some of that debt. That too will have a profound impact on our society economically. So you may have hard feelings about it, but I'm not sure why. And one thing I could say that Frank mentioned a few minutes ago when he did his hit and run was the amount of money that we are spending in Ukraine. I'm not opposed to that because I think it is an important issue to stop the illegal attempt to acquire a free country. But we've spent more than $1 trillion in Ukraine and may spend more. Most Americans, not all Americans, most members of Congress, not all members of Congress, agree with those expenditures, but don't want to forgive a kid or a young adult for a $20,000 education debt. That's another one of those things that defy logic in my mind. But give it some thought. And think about the economic impact it could have to free those young people up to be able to invest in our economy. Investment in manufacturing. Now, some of this you've probably heard, but I think it is something that you should carefully consider. He passed the CHIPS and Science Act, which was signed into law in 2022. We are making a $39 billion incentive for companies to produce domestic microchips here. Now, here's something I want you to consider. Initially, I wasn't real high on this investment. And I'll tell you why I wasn't high on it. That was our initial invention. We went overseas to do it because it could be done cheaper. And they began to dominate the market with a science technology that was created by us. And now we have to make an investment to bring back what was originally ours, because during the pandemic, microchips were in short supply. And with the highly sophisticated automobiles we have now, microchips are an integral part of automobile construction. So to that extent, I'm going to say, yes, I agree with that investment. But it is capitalism that created us in a shortfall because it was done elsewhere in order to save money. There is also going to be $170 billion invested in the Department of Energy. So I think we have a president here that has been very progressive in terms of trying to do some things to stimulate manufacturing in the United States. Again, that phone number is 340-1590. You can dispute any of these things that you want, and you can call up and talk about them, but they are, in fact, things that he has accomplished. Now, here's the next category. I am sure many of you have heard very little about. His investment in workers and families and communities. The one thing I know most of you know, because you received it, was the $1,400 stimulus checks that he sent out to us as a country. I know for some people, that was a very important benefit that gave them an economic uplift. And we got Jay on line one. How are you, my friend?
Okay, I'm doing pretty good, Rudy. Can't complain. As long as I can walk around and get up out of bed, I'm ahead of the game, man.
There you go, buddy.
Yeah, that's the way I look at life at this particular point. Even though with all the stuff going on now, and watching the news and reading what's going on with this, and it's so sad that this state is not the main topic of the day, because Sanders has got he's got a state legislator there that they're overwhelmed. They're the minority. They own it. They got everything. They have a super majority there in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of folks in Florida understand what's going on. So he's taking advantage of that, and they're afraid of him, or they support him because they think that he's the next president, because he's acting like he wants to run for president, and he wants to be like a dictator. He reminds me of watching some of the old footage that I watched when I watched the Nazi when they were running all over Europe, Eastern Europe, and they were burning up all libraries with all the books and everything, and they harassed and destroyed and killed 6 million Jews. And I'm looking at some of these folks, and I saw some of the guys, and when they attacked the Capitol, they had swastikas. So it looks like this country is, it's like time is, they want to turn the clock back. These Christian white nationalists, separatists, fascism type thinking people, they want to just take over. And what I just heard, the last thing I heard them saying on the news, they want to eliminate the Democratic Party in Florida.
That's true.
They have the majority. They have everything going for them. They got the governor that wants to do all of this crazy stuff, and the legislators probably they're probably a little afraid of them, and they're going along to get along. And this is their next project, which is not even being talked about on CNN or MSNBC. But they want to eliminate the Democratic Party and just make the main party in Florida the Republican Party. That's their goal. That's the next vote that they're going to have in Tallahassee. Most people in Florida don't even know that. They're just going along about their business. But next thing they know, it's just like what happened in Eastern Europe with the Germans. Everybody was just going on and say, well, it's not me. Well, I don't have to worry about it, until they were the last one left. And then it was too late. So I don't know how you take
Jay,
that.
I have a story about that. I have a story about that now, and I've done some research, and I hope to cover that in the next couple of weeks. But yes, you're right. That is a goal, to eliminate the Democratic Party in Florida, which to me is just really asinine and ridiculous, because we need to have both parties. I've said that over and over again. But since you're getting on a current topic, let me just say this. I don't know if you saw it today.
Mm-hmm.
Merrick Garland announced a DOJ finding that there was systematic discrimination in Louisville, Kentucky, toward the minority population. So much so, they found in cases where people were cited with making ethnic slurs against people of color. Now, so we don't have any doubt now about what happened to Breonna Taylor. That's for sure.
Right.
Although
Well, I do that all the time. Yeah.
although Daniel Cameron very effectively covered that up, but yeah, there's I think that's why I said it at the outset. You know, I've had some sleepless nights thinking about all the stuff that's going on, and it's a lot to digest because we had come so far, and now it just seems like we're sliding backwards. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's sad. It's a sad commentary.
Yeah.
You have to stand up and fight. That's what I'm talking about. People got to be more alert, more aware of what's going on, and be willing to get out there and stand up for their rights and fight back and make sure that everybody in their family, as soon as they turn 18, are registered voters. Even before they're 18, they can pre-register. I was told, you know, according to Gertrude Walker, they can pre-register at 17 and be ready to vote and know the issues and be ready because they're the future. They're the ones that's going to got to stand up to all of this nonsense, and they got to be ready to know and be smart enough to be able to deal with all of this crap. And don't turn the clock back. You know, and it's just kind of sad that I understand you know, the economy. You know, people worrying about, you know, about eggs and the gas prices and this and that. We understand the economy. We understand, but that's up and down. But this is losing the democracy. We're talking about losing everything. That's what we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
You know, I just had to make that statement, Rudy, and I want people to understand what's really going on here. And I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
That's exactly why I do this show, is to try to give people some idea about things going on that they might not be aware of. Under the investment in workers and families and communities, he had the child care tax credit, which was a temporary measure that expired in December. That reduced child poverty by about 40%. And he passed a law to protect workers' pensions for more than 350,000 union workers. So if you're a union worker out there, he passed a law to help protect your pension. Something for you to think about when you go to the polls. He also enacted a affordable housing development. So, and I don't think there's anybody right now that wouldn't say affordable housing is not an important issue. In addition, there was a support for financial aid to small businesses. Now, the Infrastructure and Jobs Act that was passed specifically addressed over 7,000 specific projects in this country. So that was pretty powerful. And he also, and this is all part of his the act where these items are covered. He also passed a legislation to upgrade the power grid. So that piece of legislation was pretty powerful. And in the Reformation, he also is reformed the U.S. Postal Service to ensure stability. The Reform Postal Act of 2022 also was to modernize the postal operations in this country. And finally, in that category, he required delivery by the U.S. Postal Service of at least 6 days a week. Now, the other item here that I think is very important, which may be of some controversy to some of you, our NATO was on in a sickbed when he became president. There was some tensions between us and France and us and Germany. And he has been able to strengthen NATO. That is important for our security. All those countries that are signatory to the NATO North Atlantic Treaty Organization must come to the defense of the members in NATO. And now we've added Switzerland and Finland. And Finland has some pretty sophisticated, has a pretty sophisticated army. So while you say you may feel that NATO is not necessary, just think about it for a second. China has a huge population. But if China was to actually pick a fight and want to go to war with us, that means the US, France, Germany, Switzerland, Finland, all are going to come together. That's part of the pact in NATO. In the event that there is an attack on a member country. So if you think it's useless, I urge you to rethink that, because that has some value in ensuring our own safety. And in so doing, in strengthening NATO, he was very effective in being able to create an alliance that supports Ukraine. Now, it's beyond question. I know we've given the most money, but we've got England supplying weapons and tanks. There's France supplying tanks. And I want you to understand, and Germany, and listen, understand this. One of the main suppliers for energy for France, Germany, and England was Russia. So when they agreed to enter the alliance in order to support Ukraine, that meant they had to take a financial hit because they could not get oil for their energy needs at the rates they had in the past. That's part of the power of NATO. And so while our prior president tried to dismiss it as being unimportant, I'm trying to get you to realize the importance of what was happening there. The first Black woman appointed to the Supreme Court was done by President Biden, and a supremely qualified woman. Contrary to anything the conservatives want to tell you, she's probably more qualified than at least two of the last justices that have been appointed to the Supreme Court. And finally, whether you knew this or not, Biden pardoned all prior federal offenses for simple marijuana possession. This will allow those folks to access housing, employment, and educational opportunities because of that pardon. And that's pretty significant because one of the things, if you get out of the system, the penal system, is trying to get your life back on track. And that pardon, without that pardon, you wouldn't be eligible for some housing, certainly not for some jobs. And so that had an effect on thousands. I'm going to repeat that, on thousands of people. Okay? So if you were wondering about whether or not President Biden has done anything to help you, I hope I answered that question. I would like to thank you for listening to the African American Scene. God bless, be safe, and I will see you next Wednesday right here for the African American Scene.
Archives of the African American Scene are on YouTube. Just go to WPSLTV.com and binge watch some of the many years of Rudy Howard's program that are up on YouTube right now. By the way, this is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast and webcasted to the world on Google Home, Alexa, and the YouTube, actually the TuneIn app on your smartphone.